needs to be here? Paul, is anybody else you need here? No. Is Matt? Oh no, six.
No.
How are you? All right.
Thank you very much.
Right. Okay. Right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Cabinet this afternoon. Relatively short agenda, but nevertheless important items on there. Can I welcome you all, and anybody watching at home? Can I please? I'm pleased to welcome you as well. Can we go then to apologies? I have apologies from Bob Greenland. Bob can't be with us because he's at hospital today. And I'm not sure if we have any others.
Joe Watkins has given apologies.
Joe Watkins, right, okay. And we're not sure if County Blackburn will be joining us or not. Can I I've just introduced myself. I'm Peter Fox, leader of the council. Just ask colleagues to introduce themselves. Go.
Phil Murphy, Cabinet Member for Resources.
Brian Jones, Member for Graduate Rail Ward and Cabinet Member for County Operations.
Paul Jordan, Cabinet Member for Governance.
Richard John, Cabinet Member for Children and Young People.
Sarah Jones, Cabinet Member for Social Justice and Community Development.
Annie Jones, Cabinet Member for Social Services, Health and Safeguarding.
Okay, Dimitri, do you want to introduce?
Dimitri Petrini, leader of the Labour Group.
Okay, well, welcome. And can I welcome Councillor Val Smith as well? And welcome all to also to officers. And please, if you ask to contribute, could you introduce yourselves, please? Okay, so we'll declarations of interest. Anybody got a declaration of interest? No? If you do find one, as we go through the agenda, please state that verbally and fill in appropriately, perform appropriately from Nicola. Okay, so we'll go into item 3, little 1. That's the local housing market assessment. Councillor Sarah Jones.
Thanks, Peter. Just before I go into introducing this report, it's worth just suggesting it was Shirley that put the report together, Shirley Wiggum, as you all know. Just want to pass on best wishes to Shirley, who's broken her ankle, so can't be with us obviously today. So best wishes for a speedy recovery. But also, just before I go into the opening remarks, just introduce Louise Corbett, who's going to be taking over from Shirley from May when Shirley retires. So welcome to Louise. I'm sure many of you will get to know her over the next few months, and thank you to the whole team for the work that they've put into this assessment. As the report suggests, this is a report that we're required to provide. It's a local housing market assessment, and we're seeking your approval as Cabinet so that we can allow this to go forward and be submitted to Welsh Government, as is the requirement. As I say, it's about reporting mechanisms. It's providing the data that we need, but it's crucial to our wider function in terms of preparing a local development plan, but also our local housing strategies. I don't think we need this report to know that we've got some real challenges, both in Monmouthshire and more widely right across Wales, in terms of high house prices and obviously the issue over affordability and housing supply. And we all acknowledge, part of our corporate plan and more widely, the importance of keeping our residents both in the county, both to work and to live. And so we know the data that comes across in this report will pose significant challenges and also some possible opportunities. As I say, we know that the challenge isn't exclusive to Monmouthshire. Indeed, in terms of new builds that are coming forward, we're actually not doing that bad, even though it's not great compared to neighbours like Blaenau Gwent and Caerphilly. But we all know Monmouthshire is an attractive place to live, so it's with the opportunities that are coming forward and presenting themselves, it's becoming even more attractive. And we need to do all that we can to address the challenges around housing need for our residents. So in terms of what we're doing to address maybe some of these things, and I know this isn't the crux of the report itself, but in terms of some of the things that we're doing to address the housing shortages and the need. Obviously, as you know, we're bringing forward the early review of the LDP, and that's a clear recognition that we need to bring more housing forward. We've agreed to take action in advance of the next LDP, so there'll be a report to the next full council which reaffirms our commitment to tackling this issue. In terms of some of the other initiatives that we're doing and which you'll all already be aware of, but it's worth just re-outlining those. We're obviously working with developers to try and bring forward the strategic site allocations that were in the previous, or the current LDP rather, and making sure that those do come forward and we can make the most of the Section 106 contributions that would follow. We're looking at the allocation of small sites in rural areas where we can look at the 60-40 rule in terms of 60% affordable housing. Indeed, there was one in my own ward that came to planning committee yesterday, which was welcome news. Again, there's full consideration of rural exception sites. We're working in partnership with RSL partners to maximise our social housing grant through the delivery of affordable homes. Monmouthshire Letting Service is another key initiative that we're working with landlords to improve our access to the private rented sector for low-income households. We're looking at all the Welsh Government funding streams in terms of delivering affordable housing. The report outlines how we're going to work with, or rather it suggests that we're going to work to bring empty properties back into use, and that could mean using Welsh Government loan funding to help assist that. And also our wider approach to preventing and tackling homelessness, the homelessness strategy that recently went forward to full council, and some of the other initiatives such as the shared family accommodation in Caldicot that's coming forward now. So as I say, this is a fairly straightforward reporting mechanism, but clearly it's a really important tool to help develop and inform our strategic approach to supporting people to live in the county and to have affordable housing available to them. The report's been to Adult Select, where they recommended it for us to adopt and submit to Welsh Government. So on that basis, Leader, I think that covers my introductory remarks. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yeah, many thanks, Sarah. Really interesting read. You know, always going to be a challenge for us. But it's just seeing the difference between wards. I obviously see the difference between counties, but actually looking at the ward specific data is really interesting, and I think we must be mindful too that some areas, some wards are going to be heavily influenced in a shorter term and see some great changes. You know, Chepstow Corner, especially with the bridge tolls and the influx coming in, you know, we're going to see a greater pressure on housing there and the price of houses. So, you know, you know, it's a big challenge, and one which, as you said, we'll be addressing. Ian, is there anything you wish to add at this point? I know there'll be some questions. Councillor Batruni's put some questions as well.
No, I don't think so.
No.
So just,
Okay. So, colleagues, anybody wish to? No. Okay. Dimitri, would you like to put your question?
Yeah, I have 4 questions. The first one is relating to how closely does the assessment follow Welsh Assembly guidelines?
Yes, it completely follows the Welsh Government guidance that we're required to follow, including formulas and calculations as part of that. We know that the guidance came in 2006, has since been supplementary guidance to support the approach that we take. If you look at the report we submitted a couple of years ago, it's quite a similar template. And similarly, I've looked myself at neighbouring authorities in terms of what they provide, and again, it's quite a similar format for submitting that information.
Looking at it, it's just statistics heavy, which doesn't tell us anything really, anything that could matter to our communities. If you look at Welsh Government guidelines 2.24, working with local communities, and I believe it's part of your brief, communities, it's important to incorporate local knowledge, which can be qualitative or anecdotal, into the assessment process, as purely statistical approaches may fail to reflect particular local issues. It doesn't reflect particular local issues, this local housing assessment. I'm just wondering your views on that.
This is a reporting mechanism on data. Clearly it informs the strategic approach we take in terms of community supporting communities, and that comes after the data is submitted. It's probably worth me checking with Ian, but have we had any negative feedback from Welsh Government on that point?
no, not on this, no.
So clearly they're quite content with the approach that we're putting forward, and as I said, we'll use that to tailor the strategic direction from local housing strategies and the LDP as part of community development.
Okay, so community views won't be included. Fine. Second question, a local quarterly price ratio is at 9.1. How is that in relation to other neighbouring authorities?
So what we see is the average house price in Wales now roughly, I think it's around 6 times. So it's clearly higher than that. Neighbouring authorities varies between 3 to 1 to up to 6 to 1. So clearly, yes, it's a higher ratio. We're all well aware of that fact, and something we'll look to address as part of the initiatives I've suggested earlier.
Like Leader, I agree with the ward data. That's very useful. Can we have the previous years as well, or do we not have that data so we can actually assess the growth or not? So we can have to get a better feel for statistics.
Yeah, I think if you've read the full report, you'll see page 25, 27, 28, 29, 30 and 31 should provide that data.
Back 1, 2 or 3 years.
It goes back to 2009 for the 24 urban wards, including yours.
Last question, how are we bringing properties back into use?
Okay, so lots of things that we're doing on that. On a biannual basis, we contact the owners of empty properties. Typically, there's around 700 of those properties. So we get in touch with them, we promote the range of opportunities that are available, clearly selling, renting, Monmouthshire letting service, contacting an RSL, etc. It is a challenge because the responses we get back are often not necessarily positive ones from the owners who don't want to be contacted by us directly, but we do our best to take a proactive approach to engage with them to bring those empty properties into use. As I highlighted in my response to your motion last December when you brought forward the council tax motion, we're going to focus this year on getting better data on the empty homes, and that's something we've committed to. So how many, where they are, why they're empty, and which ones we can actually tackle proactively as a council. We've also put a call out for brownfield sites to try and bring those into use if there's the potential to do so. Other ways in which we're trying to bring properties back into use, we've got a section on our website which invites people to report them through the MCC app. And indeed, tomorrow we're doing a survey with Abergavenny High Street to see if we can identify flats above shops, to see what scope there is to link with owners or to refer them to a housing association. So lots of opportunities. It's clearly a challenge to get empty properties back into use, particularly in a county like Monmouthshire, but it's something that we're very much cognizant of, and it's a proactive approach from the team.
That's good, because it was a reactive approach last year and it's a complete turnaround. When I asked about this, the officers said they had circa 2,000 properties they thought were empty in Monmouthshire. It went to Adult Select Committee. When I asked about what we're going to do about it, they said not much. We haven't got the staff power. So I hope we've got all the staff to deliver.
So
all this.
we do. There's some good things going on. I thank you, Sarah, for answering those so well and so clearly for anybody who's looking in. You know, there is a very proactive authority within this field in an extremely challenging housing market, especially just the nature of our county so popular. So yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for the work that's gone on in producing the report. So if there are no other members, cabinet members, Penny.
Can I just express a query? I am very concerned about some empty properties, and one in particular, which seems to me quite embarrassing, is very, very long term, and it's the old council offices in Usk, and they are still empty. And I wonder what the barrier is to bringing that forward. It really is an eyesore, but it's also a very large building, which could be. They were used by council, and it was used by council. It's in Old Market Street,
Right.
and if you know the King's Head, it's further down. Yeah. And it belongs to the owner there, but it has been empty for years and years and years, and is in a dilapidated state. And I wondered what we could do about this. What is the barrier to it?
Francis?
I think that's an ideal property that can be taken into account when we look at the Usk regeneration strategy and proposals there, and looking at that building in terms of that wider use and mixed use. We really do recognise that town centres particularly need a different type of mix of people now, so I think that's a really good example of a building that should feature as part of that dialogue.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mark?
Yeah, thanks, Leader. Just to supplement Francis' answer. It's a property on the heritage team's radar. I think it's called the White House, isn't it? So it's the colour. Our priority at the moment is dealing with another problem property in Usk, but that one's on the list. It's something that ideally fits into our look at vacant, derelict or underused buildings in terms of the next LDP in advance of that. I think the history to it is they applied for some kind of hotel type use, and planning permission was refused several years ago. So I think some of our policy approach to that needs a refresh as well. I think it may be on things like parking grounds, so we need to have a bit of a sanity check about some of those buildings that very clearly can't provide parking. We need to make some tough decisions on options for them, and if they have no other options, we need to do something pragmatic, I believe. So it is on our radar. If I could update Councillor Jones at a future date with our intentions.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That was back in Simon Robertshaw's days. He was looking at that. It was an extension to the pub, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right, do you want to come back?
Yeah, thanks, Lee. It was on a slightly different note. We're having a look around at the reports earlier, and a query rose. I'm conscious it hasn't arisen from Cabinet today, but a query rose around the house prices in the covering reports. And a bit of a sanity check that we've been going back to have. So I thought it was worth just raising it with you. I can't see a page on that, page 4 of the actual covering report, which says the average house price in Monmouthshire in September is 307,600. And then lists on the following page average house prices for the main towns. Just a bit of a sanity check, that we looked at that 307,000 figure and then the main towns, and none of those numbers are above 300. So we started questioning why they don't tally. I believe the answer is the figures provided under the main towns, we think are the lower quartile prices for those. So I was just going to suggest to yourself and Cabinet, we'll go back and clarify that and potentially amend the wording. We've tried looking at the data, but because it's live, you can't do an instant comparison, so I can no longer see what July's figures were, other than trying to guess where the dot on the graph was. But we just want to go back and clarify that. If it is the lower quartile, we'll amend the wording to reflect that, to make sure it makes sense when we refer back in 6 months' time.
But being just a bit stupid, wouldn't it be that, you know, a lot of large rural properties sold would have raised the Monmouthshire average up? It may not influence the town average, but the Monmouthshire average would be any village sales, you know?
Yes, yeah, that would be part of the story. But having done a quick sanity check, I think the town data is potentially the lower quartile data, not the average. So if you just look at those two figures,
so it could be higher, right? Yeah. Well, if you could clarify that, then that would be so you get a true picture before people pick up this report and go marching to Abergwenny to buy a house, which they think is a lot cheaper than it actually will be.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So the recommendation there is at 2 to recommend that Cabinet adopts a local housing market assessment July 2018. So it is before us. It is what it is. Are we all in favour of accepting that? Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Ian, and welcome, Louise. Look forward to working with you. Okay, let's move on to the next item, and that will be the dignity at work policy. Phil Murphy.
Yes, thank you, Leader. And the purpose of this report is to introduce the revised dignity at work policy. The current harassment policy and procedures goes back to 2006, so clearly it requires an update. All colleagues obviously are entitled to work in an environment which is free from bullying, intimidation, harassment or victimisation, and to be treated with dignity, respect and courtesy. So this policy is revised to ensure that it's up to date. So the aims of the policy are to support and sustain a positive and thriving working environment, provide a framework for respect and good conduct, provide a mechanism by which complaints can, wherever possible, be addressed, and set out the responsibilities for managing and supporting colleagues. The question was raised the other day as to whether this applied to members as well. No, it doesn't. This is just for employees. There's an officer member protocol which deals with any aspect of the relationship between officers and members. It's been through JAG, and the unions were quite happy with it. So it's there for adoption, Leader.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much. Absolutely right. I'm sure we've had a similar policy in place anyway for a long time.
Yeah, a long time.
And this is just a revision of it, or
since 2006. So.
Yeah. Well, certainly that. But Paul Matthews, Chief Executive. Over and above that, our codes of conduct, our contractual conditions clearly have moved as legislation has moved. But it's helpful to the organisation, I think, to have this refresh so that everything is codified and together in the same place.
Yeah.
So you can rest assured, Leader, that we haven't been operating to 2006.
No, well, I know in the previous guys, I've seen this a few times over my political career. I think Phil referenced a bit about members' code, because this is talking about dignity in the workplace and dealing with issues around bullying and things like that. And sometimes it may be members of staff are bullied by officers, or it could be other way around. Perhaps very unusual, I would have said in that case. But I just wondered if the member officer protocol should be referenced within this policy, it ought to have been referenced. I'm sure. I mean, clearly a member of staff who felt concerned in line with the policy would have come to their line manager, and it would be taken in the right course, I'm sure. But I don't know if it needed to reference it at all. Obviously, JAG haven't felt the need to worry about that.
No, and because it's an entirely separate policy, it hasn't been included.
No.
I'm happy to reflect on that, Leader. As I said a few moments ago, I don't think I know that this policy exists as part of a portfolio to all intents and purposes. Officers have a code of conduct which talks directly to this policy. You as elected members would be very familiar with your own code of conduct that talks to this policy. And we have a connecting document, the document you referred to a few moments ago, where we have any potential disputes or issues arising between officers and members, which again consistently talks to this policy and this legislation. But I will reflect on whether it would be helpful just to footnote it.
And long as the two sit alongside, and all members of staff realise there is something which addresses any issues that members might come or when members get in the frame of anything. And we have to just make sure that all members are very clear about the member officer protocol as well. And I'm certainly, I'm pretty sure that was all circulated at the beginning of this term, along with everything else in the induction pack.
It's a core part of your induction.
Yeah. So we just need to make sure that members are always mindful of that policy we have in place.
And actually, Leader, it's also probably helpful just to conclude to remind you that when you signed in as county councillors, you were effectively signing your code of conduct.
Exactly right. Yeah. And very rarely over recent years have there have been a case where only a couple of times where there have ever been a need to invoke that policy, and so which is a good thing, I suppose. It is not doesn't regularly need to be used. Okay, so the draft dignity at work policy is there before us. Thank you, Phil. Any members want to share anything? Okay, it's to be approved by Cabinet. So recommendation at 2 is that a revised dignity at work policy be approved by Cabinet. Are we all in favour of that? Thank you. Okay, let's go back to our next one. Is the usual one at the end of the agenda, the Welsh Church Fund working group recommendations, and you'll see there's a schedule again before us. There are a couple which have been approved, and one, number 3 there, has been deferred for some further amendment. So they're before us for adoption. So the recommendation is that we resolve that the following grants be awarded as per the schedule of applications as laid down below. So all in favour of that, or has anybody got anything they want to say?
No.
All in favour of those? Great, thank you very much. Okay, that draws the Cabinet meeting to a close. So thank you very much for your attendance.
Thank you.